Yeah, oh yeah.
And we were really delighted to be able to offer Claire and Rejane some seed funding to start their collaboration. Obviously this is a dance and visual art collaboration, and from that and Rejane's original story about going back to Brazil and opening this box of letters that she'd received from her mother from when she was 15 and travelling away from home, which had sort of sat in a box for a number of years. That moving story has developed into this project which you're about to see now. And we're all really part of the research of the project, so we're going to be asking questions afterwards which will go towards that research, and they're going to go to Athens next week to take that into an international community and into an international discussion, and they're hoping to build networks and carry on their research through that. So we're part of a development phase and a research phase, but I hope you enjoy the sharing. Thank you.
Se você cometer um engano, pergunte a si mesmo por quê. Pense, reflita e você encontrará respostas. All my letters are like a book I haven't written for. When I'm gone, you will miss me very much. You'll read the letters again and you shall be fine. Realize
away and to get their breath back. I think you want to move the seating slightly just to make it a little bit more intimate, if we can sort of move round.
We're going to move this bench seat just on here, so I've got some help on hand, and just so that it's less like an audience and performers who are sort of just make a bit more of a semicircle with the chairs. So if you could,
chairs a little bit
make it much more intimate, that would be lovely.
Really is, do you feel that digital media is replacing the handwritten letter, and how do you feel about that? Do you have a response to that question? My personal feeling is, because you also ask about how we want to receive information, and talk further about young people and culture, and everything's so fast, and it made me think of the letters from my grandmother, and I think particularly as she got older and her handwriting changed, there's an ageing process, and going back and looking at those letters, there's sort of a diary of her life somewhere in there that I think similarly, it only exists in letter form. I don't have anything else, and I think that's really beautiful. And I think for my own children, I do think, actually, no, have I written letters to them? And how would I, when I thought about how would I want to receive news, which is a question Rejane are also asking, I thought actually by telephone or by person probably, and definitely not by email, and maybe by letters. I don't know if that starts people thinking about what they're trying to get at. Does anybody here write letters anymore? Do you handwrite letters?
I think I agree with you. There's a way that unfortunately I don't think we will ever go back to what it was before. And having said that, it does make the whole thing less personal, isn't it? It's quite more difficult. Everybody does. So there's nothing special about it.
Do you know, in that email you can't quite, they haven't touched that paper, their pen hasn't gone on the page in quite the same way. So I think the connection's sort of missing as well.
Even though you have different colors and different fonts and everything, it doesn't...
Yeah, they're all part of the choice, aren't they? And the smell of them as well. I think when you open the envelope, often there's something about that person comes across.
I think I agree, but also we have a friend who's in Prague, and we write very long emails to each other. I think it's all about the language. I actually find it's the breakdown in language that people use in emails. So shortening things actually makes it that there's less involvement. But I remember discovering a diary that my step-grandmother, who I was really close to, had written, and I really got the feeling about how she felt about the situation. So although I agree, I think that, I still write letters from my grandmother because that's what she wants, to a certain degree. But it's easier, but it can be. I just think that sometimes people are lazy in emails sometimes.
It's almost there's more contact because you're going back and forwards with emails. So in some ways you're communicating more, but maybe not as much emotional depth.
Yeah, I think with this person, so we don't have contact. It's several months between each contact, but it's so. I suppose maybe it has more importance because of that, and maybe it's because I think with anything, if it's instant, people it's less important to them.
Yeah. It's done quick. Email is something we do quickly, isn't it? As a response, we respond kind of instantly.
Yeah, doing the research for this piece, I spoke to lots of people about it,
and everyone had something to say. Everyone had a story to tell through letters or receiving letter from grandmother, grandfather, and they always had a story to come back to me, which wasn't expected. I would say, I thought the our generation nowadays would be more like, oh, I never had letters, I don't know, I'm not interesting. But no, everyone has one story to share with letters they used to receive or they would like to receive.
I have one story that's the opposite, which was in our office, and the project manager that I work with was absolutely could not understand my point of view at all. And she was like, email is fantastic, all of my letters to my partner, my grandparents, everything is through email, and she's much younger than me. I did question what you were saying about younger generations not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's beautiful for me about letters, because we don't cheat ourselves. We're not going to start writing letters now because email and all the social media are much faster, and that's what is a notion of the letters. We keep talking about grandparents, so about the past. The story of yours is about the past, bringing past into now. So that's all like letters are for me, bringing the past to nowadays, which is amazing. It's about the memory. It's not that it's beautiful writing letters and it's very personal, but it's not like we're gonna do this. It's about memorizing what's been before and remembering about the grandparents. Because that's very emotional.
Yeah, that's true. And I wonder what happens to the next generation who everything is digital. Do you keep them? Do you back them up? Do you print them out? Do people print them? I don't know.
I keep them.
Do you print yours out or you save them?
Oh, the one, no, I don't.
Emails, no.
Do people save emails or print them out to keep?
Special one.
You do special ones.
I mean, typical example would be receiving a note from a person or a text and your level of attachment to a note. I always keep the notes that I receive, but text I don't. So it's just a level of attachment that you receive from that.
I'm a bit conflicted because I think electronic communication actually often it does bring people together in a more immediate way, so it does have a direct personal benefit. But what tonight has done for me is, I think in future I will think before I do write anything, and I'll think, would I actually prefer this? Is this special enough? And for me, I guess writing letters has now become something special, and perhaps electronic media has done that for handwritten letters now. It gives it a special significance.
Should we do thank you letters handwritten actually still? Some family.
I think we actually think we're probably in a transition time, which is very important historically. And I think that, everything that everyone said, I agree and have many letter stories, and I'm a writer and I use diaries and journals, and I still write longhand, and so does my daughter. But I think it's very important that you're taking this out into the world and starting to make people think about it. But I think let's not lose hope, because I think the human condition shows that we will find a way through this, everything being so transient, and find a way to make it mean something again using this media. And I think something will come of it, that in 50 years' time they'll be able to look back on us and say, they kept it going, or they made it a transition with it. So I think let's have hope and think, we're humans and everybody's still carrying on being human. So there's got to be a way that there'll still be this wonderful experience that you've had. So, which is very moving, by the way. I enjoyed it very much.
And I think that answers that discussion really well. Sorry, go on.
I actually, until about 2 months ago, had a thick folder of emails printed from 1999. Back when email addresses were something that changed very often. And some of those are the first emails between me and friends that I met online before I even moved here, who I still know whatever many years later there is. But I just recently threw them out. But I have two letters at the moment. I have one from my grandfather, who died quite a few years ago, from when he was living in Nepal, which is one of my most prized possessions, because it has my name written in Nepali scripts, and I want to add that to my ink one day. And I just received a postcard last week after going through a bit of a shitty time, and a friend of mine had written me a poem about how when you're sad, remember that you're wonderful. And that meant more than any message or email I got from anyone. It's just that she took the time. And I think that's the thing, is that they take the time to spend on you, not just to write it, but to put it in an envelope and put your address on and go to the post office and do those things. It's not just the word, it's sort of the care that you use with the physical aspect of it, at least it is to me.
Everybody loves emailing all these things, but the one thing everyone does is write a birthday card. So we do have it all in us, it's just that we've sort of moved on a little bit from doing the letters, but birthday cards you will always get that to keep. And that's probably like our...
Send the birthday cards, any cards, like that. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going. Yeah.
I think if you're trying to write email, you often got lots of different windows open and you're doing other things at the same time, so the computer and electronics sort of allow you to multitask. And you don't really take that time, whereas if you're writing a letter, it's all the physical things in front of you. And you sit down and there's nothing else to distract you, hopefully. You could go into your own room. And I think taking that time out to really think about something is something that's beautiful about physical, like physically writing a letter. So, yeah, just sort of taking time out.
I also think there is something different between emails and letters, is that you compose. Before you pose the pen on the paper, you need to know what you need to say. There's no opportunity to edit, to copy, to paste. So it changes the way we think about what we are going to communicate. You need to compose a text. You need to compose a structure. You cannot change an email. You might say dear, blah, 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 and then automatically change for hi. And you can reorganize paragraphs and then save it for later. The letters had the depth to develop the idea and to let you, you needed time to develop the whole idea and compose everything from beginning to the end, and that's something that's lost. And I think it's lost in the way that we are evolving as a society or as a way of thinking to recompose all that. And now if I write, I don't know if you check your handwritten. Lately, mine is awful. I don't know how to, my handwriting is horrible already. And if I write for 5 minutes, I'm already tired. I lost the muscles to write because I'm typing. So I don't know if I will ever come back to that, but for me the most important thing is how do you address communication? How do you think and compose ideas? Because you cannot edit them. It has to have a meaning.
Then what you're just saying about handwriting, thinking about children in school now, they've already got iPads in the classroom at year 1, and is their handwriting ever going to get strong enough? Because they'll start typing, I guess. I don't know what point that will be introduced as something that they do on a day-to-day basis, but I imagine that is coming.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I was just thinking of the thing they were saying about texting, something just a bit lighter than, and it's very true that it does seem that we're losing it, but my best friend and I, many years ago, we used to sit in the same room, write letters to each other while we were sitting in the room, and then post them. And I've still got them, and they are hilarious because they were absolutely ridiculous. But are we going to have our texts? Are we going to, is that people are still having a lot of laughs, but how much are they going to be able to keep them? So yeah, there's a big question mark with that.
So I was going to move on to receiving good and bad news. Does anyone have a feeling of how now would you receive good and bad news, and how would you send it? If you had to give bad news to somebody, would you stop and write a letter? Would you pick the phone up? Would you send an email or a text? How do people communicate good and bad? Thoughts on that?
I think phones are more personal than anything because it's the tone of your voice, and it's far more expressive and powerful. I think writing takes a bit of a time to get to someone. especially if it's really bad news. You need to tell someone then and there and express straight away how you feel to them.
Isn't that time factor? Would you consider emailing instead of writing?
Not for bad news or any kind of news really. That's worth talking about. Talking's a far better way of doing things.
I found out my friends were getting married on Facebook. Well, they're telling me. Don't know how removed. We're getting more and more removed from telling, personally telling news, good news, bad news to people, because there's all these ways we can get it out. That time factor.
That happened to me. It wasn't the bad news. It was just a very difficult issue I wanted to talk about with my mum, and I didn't know how to talk about this. I wasn't brave enough. There was not much talking in my house anyway, so it was just easier for me to write it down straight away, because I was scared that she's not going to be listening, or she will try to talk it through or something. So I just had to write down everything, sit her down, read it out, or give it to her to read, and then we could follow talking. Yeah, that happened to lots of my friends with just a difficult issue you can't really express, or you're not brave enough. That's why I would go
between digital and handwriting, or
writing. I could focus on writing, really on like putting every word in the right place, crossing, so she could see as well how my writing is going, how my hand is shaking, and all the dots and spots, which is more personal. It was just faster as well.
If you want to leave a legacy for others in the future, what medium would you choose? Have you thought about a legacy and what you're leaving behind? Photographs.
Okay, just going from my great-grandfather, where he had broken down in like some really, so it must have been Edwardian times. His car had broken down somewhere and he couldn't get somewhere. So he had to write this letter, so they didn't even think about phoning then. But I think photographs really show sort of places where you've been and how people are feeling, and actually even looking back on pictures now, I can sort of see, I hear stories, but I think also with relatives or whoever who've been dying, passing on like narratives, like so things, and actually finding out as much as possible about your relatives and what happened, I think is really important. So I think sometimes you write, but sometimes it gets to that point where you haven't had a chance to maybe write that down. So I think what I would like to do if I have children or whatever is to talk about my family and talk about stories and the things that made us, because for better or worse, it's what's the word? It's made me who I am, and so I don't want to take that away from myself and what I've learnt. So I think it would be a multitude of things, of letters and photos and experiences, but I think what's important is that it might sound mundane to yourself, but actually someone else might find it quite interesting.
Around getting older people to talk about photographs, to record that kind of other knowledge that they have that's connected, and that the photograph sparks the memory for them. Sorry.
It's dialogue, and I think the most difficult thing is to really bring out courage and to meet people and to talk to them. And I also think that really pure-hearted and honest words remains there for the rest of your life. It's what happened to me in two ways: saying some special words to people and receiving honest words from people. So I think that it's, for me, is the deepest way to keep this connection, deep connection with people.
And the most fundamental, if we think of Beowulf and things like that, we've always had that oral history coming through. So I think I completely agree with you, and I think, perhaps that's where we're going to find salvation is, we're still going to pass that on from communication, actual communication with everyone, so yeah.
Of your character, who you are also, the way you write your letter, is it big A or small, or like may want to improve your writing, and then your mom or whoever is going to get it. Oh, actually, it looks really nice. Now she improved her style of writing. Well, this is for me. It's going to be absolutely unforgettable. The handwriting.
When someone writes a letter, it's not many people understand when your emotions come out in the way you write. And certain people, obviously, that study writing actually understand what you're feeling, how you write. And that is missed, completely missed. Because you read a letter in one context, but yet if you understand how the writing is and left-handed, right-handed, and you can tell the person by the actual letter, and that is completely missed.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. No, I'm sorry, I just laugh because I'm thinking I've written journals and used it all my life, and it's just like, hello, I'm very sensible today. Hello, I'm completely drunk, and oh my God, I didn't even know, so just relating to that, so it made me smile. Yet there is feeling with emails. I mean, you can probably see that a little bit, but also you get a lot of misunderstanding in emails as well because they can't understand speech.
I wonder, I've never really communicated with people in letters in the same way as email, so I wonder if there was the same level of misunderstanding in letter writing as there is in email. I don't think any of us have really worked with that.
I think in letters you put more emotion, and for who receive as well, mainly when you send a letter by surprise, when the people receive it, it's a big surprise and it's a big thing when you receive a letter. So that's, I think, is a lot of emotion for who received the letter, not just for who sent it.
We haven't talked about that until we're actually dropping through the door.
Nowadays we just receive bills.
Yeah. I'm just going to read the next section because it's about what's happening next, and I don't want to get it wrong. So we'd like to get feedback on our plans to develop this project, and we intend to follow the performance with a dance and writing workshop where writing is explored through movement and participants then get the opportunity to handwrite a letter. The writing paper will be translucent and will be folded up in an envelope in a similar way to tonight's programme. These letters will be collected and then exhibited together in a sculptural form at the end of the project. They will then be posted back to their writer. And by doing that, we hope to involve participants in the letter writing cycle and keep their interest in this subject over a period of time. What do you feel about this idea?
Very good.
Yeah.
Back to the writer, but to somebody else.
Something that they choose or a random person?
Personally, I find it more interesting if it ended up with somebody random whom I didn't know at all.
Yeah, we like that idea. That's good.
Just to somebody else. Sorry.
So I think a lot of communication is about what the intention is. So whether it's not inherent in the form of a letter that it will be meaningful, or inherent in the form of an email that it will be superficial. I've had some really disappointing letters and some wonderful emails, just as I've also written down a whole series of texts because they were significant. So I think a question about getting someone to write a letter is why are they writing a letter, and it's really important who they're writing the letter to, because that's what imbues the letter with meaning, significance, as opposed to the letter in and of itself.
We've done a workshop doing on research and development, and we gave the option to the participants who they want to write to. So all of them, they chose to write to someone else, to someone. Yeah. So our idea in the beginning was to write to yourself, but then through this research we realized people would like to take part of the workshop but write to someone else. So when we get to the schools and youth groups that we want to reach, and then we will provide a workshop, so we will give them the choice who they want to write. And 6 months later, they will receive the letter, so they can post to their friends or to whoever they want to. But they will have the letter through the post, so they will feel what's like to receive, all the excitement, anticipation of receiving a letter.
And then they can pass it on.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Well, when I'm receiving letters, it's all bank was the spell, you know, this thing, bills, 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 bills. So I come from a country where letters, looking at the envelopes anyway, Rejane, in Brazil, they had the beautiful colors around as part of how I've been brought up. And people back then, they used to write letters all the time because telephone was really expensive. So it was a beautiful way to communicate. It feels special because you feel that somebody cared for you. And coming to live in England, I mean, we don't have that. I think it's so fast-paced, you know. People don't really have the feeling of the importance of being a human being and somebody's caring for you. It's very fast and it's beautiful. It's quick and it's amazing. You get the answers straight away, but it's sometimes it's emotional. You know, it's not powerful as a letter. So.
Did you keep the letters that you had?
Well, I think they are somewhere, but I remember receiving them, and that feeling is amazing because you are part of that kind of feeling, that, you know, that latter period of my life. But nowadays, people, you know, you got Facebook, you got all those media things. You still bring people together through video conference, perhaps, but letters are amazing. I believe they're amazing.
I've kept my the letters that from my mom, but we used to like send letters like probably only on birthdays and Christmas. I've got them all, yeah, in a box. But since she learned how to send emails, she's like 65. Yeah, we like send emails like every week to each other, and Facebook and everything. And it's amazing. And sometimes I can like take a picture of myself and say, "Mom, look how I look today," and you know, and she loves it. But yeah, I agree that letters are much better. You know, there's a lot of emotions. But the email is just, you know, sometimes I'm at work and I say, "Mom, are you gonna be at home, you know, on Sunday so we can Skype each other," and, you know, things like that. The technology is so advanced, and yeah, but I do have to, on her birthday, I have to send a birthday card through the post, and on Christmas, you know, Christmas cards and everything. Yeah.
Also, another thing, the writing in the letter is very important because the writing is the person, and an email, whatever font it is not the person imprint, and the letter, it has the personality of the person. You know it's a person writing to you.
When you see the envelope,
yeah.
you know who it's from.
Yeah, you know, like my mom has awful writing, and so my dad. But, you know.
Because this is actually a really beautiful dance, we are all looking back at letters in a very nostalgic way, and as if they were all good. I'm old enough to remember writing letters quite often, and I got it wrong quite often, and I said the wrong thing to people, and then it's on your letter to me. I've made a complete fool of myself and things like that. But I mean, what was very lovely this evening is that the idea about letters has been transposed into something very beautiful in dance. And to me, the thing that's interesting is that transposition of something quite mundane, like a letter, into something that's really kind of part of the air and in dance and movement. And it was done very beautifully. So I enjoyed it.
Me and my partner were used to live in two different countries, and we did send letters to each other, and it wasn't just the letter, but once was like a flower, because you can put a flower in the envelope, another time was a book or a photograph, and every letter was perfumed with my perfume, so he was smelling also my and this letter lasts. I mean, we still have this letter. On the other hand, I had a very special friend, and we decided to have an email address, and we did send each other emails only to this email address. So I was receiving email to that email address only from her, and she was receiving my email
only in a particular email address. But once we stopped to do this email thing, and actually the provider, Hotmail, closed our accounts, and we have lost like thousands of email in 1 second, like years of emails. And I think it was so disappointing. I mean, I was completely bereft of my memories and emotions. And I think that this is a risk of the digital culture, that you can lose all your data work in 1 second because you have lost your hard drive in a train, and 20 years are gone. And so while books and letters can last longer, at least you don't fire your house.
What is also interesting is you can't trust a piece of digital writing until you have a piece of manual writing at the end of it. You know, if a contract is not signed, it's not real. Equally, I can't really trust an email, or I have to, believe that email is actually real. On the other hand, a piece of handwriting, it must be real, is the real thing. So there is an issue of, authenticity on digital writing, which, we haven't yet really sorted.
You say that you instantly recognise that writing of somebody, so you kind of know that is genuinely from them. Which you can't do from anyone. Sorry?
And if it's a handwritten document, and they say, well, I never signed that, and then there's means and ways to prove, but obviously with digital, you've got to trace it through IP addresses. It's a far harder process to prove in the court of law. So, yeah, it's definitely right.
I think the thing about saying, emails can be quick and convenient, but I have spent, one particular instance, but spent a very, very long time writing out an email, and technical issues, who knows, gone. You see that you're like, just as if you've never spent that time doing it. So that's one thing that can be not so quick and convenient when it comes to emails and technology.
And also that's shying away from people using emails where rather, I don't know, I'm sure in the past they would have spent time talking about it in business and things like that. I've had something recently where it took me a whole day to get someone to send something from A to B. What size was it? I mean, how long did it take me to do that? A whole day. Because I couldn't say, can you just do this? It had to go back with emails. Oh, I never heard that. I never said this. So it takes something away, and it's supposed to be labour saving, but then, as you're saying, becomes labour intensive. So you're losing some sort of communication in a way, because I'm guilty of it as well. You think, oh, I don't have to talk to that person. I can just text them. I can just email them. So you're sort of disengaging yourself in some way, and there are. Yeah.
The questions because of the sort of decision making, but actually picking up the phone, it's almost we've gone. There was the letter, then there was an email, and we've moved further and further just from communicating, picking it up. But I just want to go back to the schools and going in with young people. Do you feel that, or do you think that there's a potential through this project and getting young people to write letters that they might reconsider the importance maybe of writing letters, or not necessarily the importance, but the value or the potential to do it? Yeah. Do you think that will inspire them?
It's learn by example and opportunities for young people. I mean, I've always kept a longhand diary, which I don't write it every day now, but I still do. And my daughter immediately picked it up off me and does the same thing. And, we had a culture of doing it, didn't we, that when we were at school. I mean, this is one of my best friends I've known since I was 10, and she's got letters from me, and I've got letters from her. And, we used to write letters to each other in class and pass them onto the desk. So, and her children know that we did that. She'll tell her grandchildren. So I think, yes, it's a fantastic idea, because even if you've hit one person, what's the conversion rate? If you hit one person, you've done something, it's going to work. Yeah. It's a great idea.
When I had the idea, first of all, I missed my mom, so I wanted to read the letters. And then I thought to myself, I want to write letters to my son or my daughter when it comes to time. I want to make sure they will have letters from me. So that was my main motivation to do this project, to reach the young generation. Because if we don't do nothing right now, the next generation will come and they won't have this, they won't experience, receive a letter, write a letter, they won't know what this process, this emotion, how can we be touched through a letter? I suppose that leads quite nicely to the last question I was going to ask, which is, are any of you inspired to go away and write a letter?
Yeah.
Yes, you're better. Inspired. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry.
I think what's important is to, whether it's a letter or an email, is to value the communication. What this performance gave to me is, you sort of take certain things for granted, and then it kind of makes you realize that maybe you won't always have that. So maybe you look back at an email or a letter, maybe you'll keep it, and maybe you'll throw it away.
I will say one little thing in defense of email, though. Quite a few years ago, I got an email from a man I just started dating, and it said, "I can't stop smiling." And they had a smiley face, which he had blown up to the biggest possible size. It's the nicest email I've ever had in my whole life.
During the course of our research, I found two really interesting things. One is about legacy, that if, when you die, your digital possessions, like iTunes library, you expect to be able to pass down, or in the cloud, down to anybody like your next of kin. Forget it, because Apple, or whoever's licensed it, actually will own it. And I was quite amazed that we don't think of the long term. Digital is very here and now. It's very immediate, and I enjoyed your point about the authenticity. And I did think it was really sad that people invest in something that actually isn't really going to be theirs. And the other thing is, a superhead in London has turned a school round by focusing the children on handwriting. And by doing that, she reckons, as does Professor Susan Greenfield, that there's this the body goes into a different zone, so you start to be able to focus and do tasks to a better ability. And there's also research out there at the moment that suggests that people who heavily multitask on digital media, so you're a bit like me really, I'm afraid, you're on your Mac and you've got your phone going, you've got your iPad there and your digital camera. So I'm a real techie, I really love that sort of thing, but I love the hand-drawn and I love making things, so I sort of sit in this sort of ambivalent area. But they were saying that this generation, sort of the under 18s, it's proven that your ability to actually do tasks is lowered in tests by people who heavily multitask, and I thought that's really quite sad. But there again, people who are sometimes dyslexic might find a real relief through texting, because it gets away with the embarrassment of spelling. So I think there's quite a lot of pros and cons on both. So when we do this research, I'm going to have a very open mind, because I want to see where it can go. And we're certainly not just wanting to be nostalgic, but it has really challenged me on a personal level as well, because with 3 teenage sons who are running back there, hi guys, they live through digital, and we text, hi mum, I'm there, so everything's done. Party. Yes, we've got fantastic prizes. City Academy have given us £250 voucher, which you can use on any form of activity available. We've got a CD that will be personalised by Michelle of the music tonight. I have done an artwork specifically about letters Cartas for tonight's performance. And we have got a beauty treatment. It's
a facial.
I know about massage.
facial and body massage. Brilliant. In a top clinic. That's where I keep my beauty going. So yes.
Janet will come round. Thank you, Janet.
Last minute. Let's get change why they go around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to just tell us about?
I'm going to take part of the World Congress in Dance Research. We will perform and we will do a workshop as well. Then in September we've got in Vine Studio an exhibition.
Yes, at the Viner Street Galleries I have an art exhibition with Janet, a co-artist of mine, and there's another artist, Helen Stolway. And on our preview night, Justina and Rejane are going to perform Letters Cartas, because the sculpture, which doubles up as a fine art piece as well as a stage piece, I will be adding all sorts of video footage and all sorts of other things. You are all very welcome, but hopefully we have your details and we will be emailing you and putting it all on Facebook.
Yeah.
So Athens is first, it should be huge fun.
Yeah, next week. Yeah. Then hopefully from September we will also reach the schools. We will apply to the Art Council. With the support from Surrey Arts, we hope to reach the schools and community center with the performance workshop and do the creation. This is just the research and development phase. It's not the final product. So we might want to go up to 20 minutes or so. So yeah.
The picture is very nice.
What do you think?
Yeah.
You like?
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant idea as well. So clever. And the whole feeling behind it as well. And what is going to be gained from it as well.
Shelby, personal CD.
Oh, the personal CD? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Sorry, personal CD.
The CD, she's gonna post you her work. 131.
131?
131. Michelle, so you take her detail. And I'll take to your for clear light now. Clear light. So the number for a build treatment. My girls over there. 260.
Like 40 of them.
Oh, so that means Diana.